in the studio. He's Greg Pickel. You can't see him. I'm looking at him right now. He looks magnificent. I'm Bob Flounders. Let's just continue with the spring theme, Greg, and talk about some Penn State players we're kind of eager to follow this spring. Either they're going to play a key role, or they're a young player that's ready to break out. It could be a player that's going to answer a question. Hopefully, who's on the top of your list?
Maybe not the top, but one of the names that comes to mind immediately is Jordan Stout, because Penn State has to replace.
I like that pick.
Blake Gillikin, of course, and it would seem to me that Stout might be the leading candidate to be the punter. However, we know James Franklin is really not a fan of having the same guy do kickoff, field goals, and punting.
Right.
And so Jake Pinniger's back, of course, but if he can't do the longer kicks that Jordan Stout does, will James Franklin be okay with Stout possibly doing, basically 2.5 of those 3 jobs? So I'll be interested to see how that works out. But, Blake Gillikin had his inconsistencies for sure, but when he was good, there were few punters Big Ten or nationally better than him.
Yeah, and didn't Jordan take out a chunk of the AT&T Stadium?
Yes, he
scoreboard.
It, with a punt.
He's definitely got the leg to do whatever he wants. It's a question of how James sees it. But I with a leg like that, I think you got to use it. And if you're going to use it, at the very least, I would give him a shot to punt. I think as we move forward, I think James has begun to trust Jake Pinniger a little bit more. I think he only missed 1 kick last year, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 1 or 2. I think from 45 yards in, he's pretty consistent. And, in theory, Greg, this offense should take another step with that running game.
Right.
I don't know that they're going to be trying a lot of long field goals. I think their offense is legit, and I think you're not going to see. There might only be 1 or 2 times where they want to gamble on a 55-yard field goal, and Jordan would be the guy. But I do like that pick of a spring player to watch. I think we probably haven't talked enough about what Blake kind of meant to the program, especially. I thought the last year and a half he got a lot more consistent. Yeah. I thought he had a good senior year. He's going to be a guy that I think really we would kind of overlook just what he meant to Penn State. I think he had the second best net average in Penn State history behind Jeremy Boone from Mechanicsburg High School.
Mm-hmm. Good name.
But for me, we've talked enough about the corners, and obviously there's some players we're going to watch. I mean, to me, one of the guys I just think that I think Brandon Smith is really a guy that, as we're going to be talking about him a lot in the fall if he's healthy. I just remember whenever he got on the field, Greg, you would see him make a big hit, or you could see him run. That linebacker group, maybe say it's Ellis Brooks and maybe it's Brandon Smith and Micah. That's a quick group and that's a physical group. I think Brandon Smith can get very good in a short time. He's a guy I'm going to be watching. And at the end of spring, when James kind of talks about the guys that made the biggest strides, I'd be very surprised if he is not one of the guys on his list.
Yeah, I think Lance Dixon might be in that conversation too. Speaking of Jordan Stout, if he didn't kick so many touchbacks, I think they probably would have played Lance Dixon all season. But it seems to me that they realized that we're just kind of wasting this guy's year of his eligibility running down the field, not really getting to do anything or learning anything. So that's interesting. I'll finish up my bidding with the offensive line as a whole. I know it's veteran. I know it returns a lot, but Phil Troutwine might be looking for different things than what Matt Limegrover was. And will that lead to any changes? Michael Bennett's going to start. Rasheed Walker's going to start. Will Fries, I think, is going to have to fight for his job, but he got a gigantic vote of confidence from Dwight Galt. And then that group up the middle, I think Mike Miranda and C.J. Thorpe are logical, but there's some other guys pushing for time there too. And Caden Wallace is maybe the one I'm most interested in seeing if he finds a home in that starting 5 some way, somehow. It won't be easy, but they've been very high on him. I think that's a sneaky group to watch because it might seem like everything's set and ready to go there, and perhaps it will end up working out that way, but there's plenty of questions to answer too.
We got one more name for you. If you remember, Dwight Galt said that it sounded like they kind of took it easy with Jason Owe during winter conditioning. I think he might have had a shoulder issue, and that might have lingered from the end of the season. I think he'll be fine. Adisa Isaac, I think this spring, he talked about all the weight that he's put on. They played him as very sparingly as a true freshman, but they burned his red shirt.
Right.
He's now physically, I think, ready to play defensive end, and I think he's going to play a lot they like to, especially in passing situations, they like to get maybe a third defensive end on the field. You could see Owe, and you could see Adisa, and you could also see, obviously, Shaka Toney. But I was also really surprised. Did you see the testing numbers of Shaka Toney? I referenced it in one of the stories. He ran like a like high 4.40, and he's got the best vertical leap on the whole program.
Right.
He had his 1 inch better than Mike Gesicki. Like, I knew he was a good athlete. I didn't realize he was that good. I think the defensive end group with him coming back can be really special, and I think Adisa Isaac is really a guy to watch this spring and in August. I think he's going to really help the pass rush this year.
All right, we'll see you next week.